All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wholesaling the Cool Way. This is your first time. I'm Jasper Cool here with my dad, Mark Cool. And on this show, we like to talk about our respective businesses. We're both working in North Carolina, wholesaling houses and land now, both of us, which is exciting. My dad started mainly with land, and now he's doing houses as well, which is awesome. And I think I kind of did the reverse, but still mainly doing houses. And so we typically like to kick it off with some books or podcasts or anything else that has inspired us over the past week. So did you have anything else or anything that you want to check in on that front?
Typical for real estate, and often checking about like personal growth or business books or real estate podcasts, stuff like that, investing. Mine are a little bit different this week, but I found this podcast. There's a stand-up comic that I really like named Kellen Erskine. Have you ever seen him?
No.
I have to share a video with his stuff is great, really funny. He's really off, different perspective. But I found out that he has a podcast and it's called Book Pile. And it's called Book Pile, like Pile, the best and worst of books. And they review books and they do all kinds of books, like from Harry Potter to Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, whatever. And they either review the book and they talk about the things they like about it and lessons and all this stuff, or they totally like pan the book, like this, they make fun of it. But even when they make the ones they make fun of, they still like talk about things that are good about it or things the author did well or whatever. But then they kind of, and because he's a stand-up comic and the guy he does it with is also like a writer and a humorist, they're funny and entertaining, but they also talk about books. Like this week, they're talking about Amy Poehler's book, who I would never think of getting. And when I saw it, I thought, oh, they're going to roast this, but they didn't roast it. They were like, wow, this respect to this woman. She really lays it out, like what it's like to start out as an artist and how to succeed, and the challenges and the pitfalls, and all the things she learned, and she did it in a really cool way. So anyway, it's been a fun podcast for me to listen to because it's funny, but I'm learning about books too at the same time. So I
Yeah.
recommend that. It's called Book Pile, and they've got like 200 episodes, so pretty fun. All the different stuff they talk about.
Mhm.
Um, that was a new one for me this week, and some of the stuff is similar, so I won't spend any time on it. But I'm still watching Sprint, that documentary. And I found another documentary, and this is completely unrelated to real estate, but very cool for me. I like westerns, and I've read a couple books on Tombstone, the gunfight at the OK Corral. It's one of the probably the most famous Wild West gunfight of all time. It lasted like 30 seconds, and there were like 9 guys, and it ended up 30. It was like 30 seconds, 30 shots fired, 3 men dead, 2 men wounded, and it's Wyatt Earp in this whole story. But there's a whole backstory about it and how it wasn't just that gunfight. It was like the politics of the developing West and J.P. Morgan trying to take control of the railroads and trying to get investment from Great Britain, from like the Prince of Wales, who was about to be king, and one of the Rothschilds, who had a lot of money over there. And so he was influencing this whole thing with the Wild West and the gunfight, and this, it was triggered by a stagecoach being robbed because they were taking all the silver from Tombstone, Arizona. They're taking all the silver out, and they were funding the government because the government had gone into debt for the Civil War. So they're just showing the whole bigger picture of this gunfight and how the political and economic ramifications of it all. And it's also done in a really cool way, like it's dramatized. Uh, some of those dramatized documentaries are really cheesy and the acting's really bad, but this one's really good. And Ed Harris narrates it, who's Academy Award winning actor. So anyway, I've been really digging that, and it's been cool to learn about the bigger picture of like what the politics and the economics were just around this thing that's so famous, this one gunfight that lasted 30 seconds, but there were all these ripples and all these different things going on. So that's been really cool. And it does kind of tie in with a book I read that gave a lot more of the backstory of that, but it's this one gives even more. Um, and then I think that's it. That's all I've got for now. Uh,
Nice. That's
Major real
cool.
estate stuff or business stuff that I've still been on the Dan Martell book, the Buy Back Your Time, and yeah, and implementing those ideas, which has been really helpful for me. So
Yeah.
I'm in with that. You got stuff that you've been inspired by or learned from this week?
Yeah, I had a couple things. One was kind of unrelated as well, but I saw this video from this dude that I watch sometimes, and he like is a fitness guy. And so he went to this gym in New York, and I think it's a newer facility, and I'm forgetting the name now, but I'm sure you could find it very easily because it's a very niche like gym model, which is interesting because we've been talking a lot about, going niche and just narrowing your audience and stuff like that. But anyways, so this gym is $10,000 a month, and they cap it,
Wow.
and they cap it at 250 members. And so, do the math on that. It's 2.5 million a month that these guys are making, and the facility is just insane, like as it should be, right? But it's amazing, and it's got this massive, massive gym. Of course, it's got like the float tank in there. Obviously, it's got the sauna and the cold plunge, all that stuff that most gyms have. But it's got a float tank. It's got a full like kitchen and everything. And so when you sign up for the thing, like you tell them what kind of foods and stuff you like, and they'll just basically have a pre and post workout meal ready for you every single time you go. You can get unlimited massages. So you can get a massage every day. And they
Wow.
have, personal trainers that are going to help you work out every day, and just a bunch of cool stuff. You can get like a body fat scan or whatever anytime you want. They'll do all kinds
Sweet.
of tests on you, all included. So I guess like, if you have the money to waste on that or to spend on that, it is like if you break it all down, I guess it's kind of worth it. If you were to do all of those services on your own, it probably would cost you about 10,000 a month. So, but I thought that was just amazing that someone created that. And it's like right in the middle of New York City, but when you step inside, you would never know. They have like, they really designed the space well. There's plants everywhere, even though it's like in a basement in New York. Like it's crazy, crazy how they designed it. But that was pretty cool and just inspiring to see that someone came up with that idea and they're, being successful with it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, that's great.
and then, yeah, and then I saw another podcast with Brent Daniels and Robert Wensley, who's the CEO of Investor Lift. And I really like that one. I'm really inspired by Robert and Investor Lift just by how much data they have. It seems like that's the play there. Obviously, they're making a ton of money, but I think what they're really doing is being the owners of all this data. And so they own the most data in wholesaling pretty much. He knows exactly like the average assignment fee for every single market in the United States, how long it takes to sell a deal, every single market in the United States, like all this data that is very valuable. He owns all this data because he owns the platform. And so they were just talking about some stuff. They were kind of like debating a little bit because Robert is really obviously a tech heavy entrepreneur. He really believes in technology and AI and all that stuff. And Brent is kind of the opposite. And so Robert
He's a
was,
people guy.
yeah. And so Robert was
Old
talking
school.
about, yeah, he was talking about how he's going to integrate AI into Investor Lift, and they've already tested it out. And he said that they literally like sold a deal using an AI voice agent, so it wasn't even a person, and they sold a deal using that,
Wow.
and made 20,000 on a deal doing that. And so he played the recording for Brent on the podcast, and Brent was like, "Dude, this is terrible. Like my salespeople would crush your AI thing." So it's kind of funny, but it's working. The AI is working, and so Robert made a good point, which is like this is kind of the frontier of AI, and especially with voice agents. And so he's like, everyone laughed at all the technology that was invented, like with Tesla, with this self-driving stuff. And when it first came out, it didn't work. The Tesla didn't even know what it was doing to even like do a cruise control. But now, like you and I have both probably tried it. I've definitely tried it, and it's really good. Like it can drive the car for you almost 100%.
Yeah.
And so he compared it to that, and I thought it was a good analogy because in about 4 or 5 years, Tesla just did a complete 180 with that self-driving, and now it's usable. Like you can really use it. And so he's saying he believes the same thing with AI. Like right now, yes, it does sound a little bit like a robot, and if someone was trying to listen for it, they would know it's a robot. But he said in 5 years, you probably won't even know the difference. And I do believe him on that. So I think it's very cool. And in the future, we can just have AIs that are doing all these repetitive tasks. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And not even
I
not
bet
even
you
just
could even
repetitive tasks, but conversations.
yeah,
So I think that's really cool. But
yeah. I bet you could even do it with the chat bots right now, like how we have people actually manning our text platforms. You could probably train a chat bot to manage a text platform, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I know some people are doing that in wholesaling with like a different CRM, and that's got me thinking about switching CRMs. But I haven't done it yet, but I don't think it's possible within Podio and stuff. But I think there's another CRM that you can do that. But anyways, that was a good podcast. If anyone wants to listen, that was with Brent Daniels and Robert Wensley. That was a good one. And then last one, I'll check in briefly. I listened to it was a fairly brief interview with Patrick David, but I always like when he does interviews. And one of the things that stood out to me on this one was how he was talking about that he always likes to carry cash. And I know some people that are more prominent, like influencer with it or whatever, they say like, cash is trash and like use debt and all this stuff. But he believes the opposite. Um and he likes to carry a bunch of cash. And he told a story about how he recently bought this building that they are moving all their operations to for $25 million in cash. And the only
Wow.
reason he was able to do that is because he had 25 million in cash, and so this went to a bank foreclosure. And the way they did this, because it's such like a expensive property, is they basically I don't know how he got on the list, but they had a list of investors that they thought might buy it. And then they reached out to all these investors and they're like, okay, the auction's taking place on this date and it's going to be over a Zoom call. They're doing an auction over a Zoom call. And they
Wow.
said, if you want to participate, you have to give us $1 million non-refundable deposit before you hop on the Zoom call. And so I don't remember how many people it was, but I think he said it was 50 to 100 people that showed up on the Zoom call. And and
That's
then
amazing that 50 to 100 people dropped $1 million deposit.
yeah. And then, obviously they were all bidding, and then he won the auction. And he said that they had to close, just like most foreclosures, within 7 days. And so he had to wire the money within 7 days. And now he owns it. So I just thought that was really cool. And obviously you don't need 25 million bucks, but maybe if you even had a couple 100,000, you could buy real estate properties the same way, because
Yeah.
a lot of people are going in foreclosure, especially, this year and probably the next few years. So it's definitely an opportunity for those of you that do have cash. But that was super inspiring to me. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'll share a real quick last thing that I haven't dove into yet, but I just got an email this morning that Alex Ramosi launched a new course. Like he has 2 courses on acquisition.com, but he just launched another one. And this one is called $100 million scaling. And so you go on there on acquisition.com if you want to, and you just plug in some information. Like they ask you a few questions about your business, and then they'll send you like their recommended course video or whatever to watch for your specific stage in business, based on your revenue, your employees, and all that sort of thing. And so I just did that for me, and it opened up this video, which is like 50 minutes long. It has like a PDF with it and all this stuff, and it's really cool. So
Cool.
I just dove into it for a few minutes before our call this morning, but I'm excited to check that out. So if anyone else wants to check it out, it's on acquisition.com for free. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So that's it for me. We can move on to business checking. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I just want to just touch on the last thing you said. Is just that we're talking about inspiration, and that's really inspiring that he just gives away so much. And so many of these people, like we talked about Pace Morby last week, is like they hit a place where they don't have to work anymore. They've got plenty of money, but they're still driven. And it does seem like once you get to a certain place with wealth and money, the motivation does really change to like, how can I be of service? How can I bring value? How can I lift other people up? And it
Mm-hmm.
seems like uh, Hormozy embodies that. So I'm inspired by that, and I think it's really cool. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, he's making money on all this stuff, and he's adding followers, and he's continuing to grow his wealth. But why shouldn't he? Like that's part of the principle of wealth, right? It's like the more you grow, the more it's easy to grow it. You just get momentum,
Mm-hmm.
the velocity of money, right? Some people talk about, but it really is like he doesn't need to work. He could do something completely different, and he is providing value and helping lift other people up. So I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you asked me about business check-in. I did make some notes here, so I'll check in about business stuff. Um, I'll start off with gains and wins. Our offers were up 30% this month. So we had 92 offers in October and we did 130 offers in November. So that's awesome. An uptick
Awesome.
in offers. That means, we've gotten more leads. I just looked at our offers KPI report in Podio and it wasn't correct. I had to go manually and look at another uh, view. So anyway, our leads are up, but I think they might be up more than what this says, which is 13%. But our leads are
Mm-hmm.
up. So that led to more offers. I'm just talking about victories. So then we got What else? We sold 8 deals in November, so that's a victory. Um, that's a good number to finish out, like the fourth quarter with, to get 8 sales in November. Gives us a chance to close some more deals in December. That's
Hmm.
the fourth highest month we've had for solds this year. Um, let's see, thought I had written this down. I think we did 10 once and we did 9 2 or 3 times, and then we've done 8 a couple of times. So anyway, that's pretty good to sell 8 for us. That's 2
Yeah,
per week, for the month. Uh, and then to piggyback on that too, we had 2 solds this past month that we sold in one day, that we got the contract and we sold it to one of our VIP buyers same day or next day. So that's
that's
pretty
great.
awesome. That's a great
Yeah,
up, trend. And then I mentioned earlier offline that Derek, who's my brother and dispo manager, managing partner, uh, reached out to some sellers we had, or buyers that we had, that were in default on their owner finance or behind on payments, and he was able to talk to all of them and have productive conversations with them, so we can get these owner finance deals brought up to date or restructured. And that was a victory,
nice.
that not only that Derek did that and locked it down, but that I didn't have to do it. It's a victory
Yeah.
for me. So, uh, and then jumping into KPIs, we had 11 contracts for the month. I already checked in about the 8 solds. That's great. 11 contracts in the month is good. It's our third highest total. I just looked back over the year. We did 16 contracts, was our biggest month this year. We did 12 contracts 3 months out of this year, and then this is our third time getting 11 contracts in a month. So
Sweet.
that's a nice number. And I'm focusing on quality over quantity too. So we're working on metrics for that, like not worrying so much about the quantity of the contracts, but what's the quality in terms of saleability and ability to close, right? So
Hmm.
I'll check in more about that in the coming months, how we're trying to transform metrics from, we've talked about this before. I feel like contracts is a somewhat flawed metric or thing to incentivize team members for. I think that leads and contracts have some inherent flaws in them if you're incentivizing those or setting them as targets for acquisitions team members, because anybody can call anything a lead and anybody can get a contract if they give the seller, the amount that the seller wants. So those aren't really.
Yeah.
I'm trying to improve those metrics and find ways to do a better quality version of them. And so I'll check in more about that as we go forward, because that's going to be one of our thrusts, the end of this year and going into next year.
Hmm.
Uh, and then yeah, we closed 3 this month for KPIs. I'm doing monthly KPIs because we're at the end of November, beginning of December. Uh, and 3 is, we had 6 scheduled to close 1 week of this month, right? I think we had 8 when we went into the month scheduled to close. We closed 3. So that's, if you're new to wholesaling, that's not unusual to like think you're going to close 8 in the month, then close 3. Uh, it's not fun, but it's not unusual either. I guess the good news about that is we made 37K. We closed, 3 deals and made an average of 12 plus per deal, so it's not bad.
Yeah,
Um,
it's great.
but it's still not where we wanted to be. Like if we had 8 going into the month, we'd hope to close at least like 6 of those and be more like at 70,000 instead of 30,000, 37,000. But I'm not complaining. I'm just, talking about the way the business goes. And this is the way my experience has been, that oftentimes things get delayed or canceled or fall out. And some of these are delayed. A couple of them fell out, I think, out of the 8 we started with. And then if I'm rolling into challenges, just checking about a couple challenges, and maybe we can chat about these if any of them are. Jasper, I checked with you on text this week about logistics around closing a house with hoarder in it. And the hoarder is actually not in it. The seller has moved out, but their stuff is piled in the house. It looks kind of like I haven't been into the house, but I've got photos, and it looks kind of like a trash heap. It's like broken furniture, um, papers, and loose items scattered everywhere. A few things that look like they might be salvageable around the edges. Like if I was to do it for me, I would be like, let's get a dumpster and let's take 75 to 90% of this stuff and throw it in the dumpster and then salvage what's good. But the
Hmm.
person who we're dealing with, their mindset is, I want every last scrap of paper and fork that's on the floor, or you know what I mean, like broken this, broken that. I want it all.
Yeah.
So it feels like insanity to me. But um, I was checking in with my girlfriend, who is a social worker and deals with, these types of situations where she has to remove children from houses like that and stuff. And it's mental illness, right? It's not something we're going to fix as real estate investors. We're not going to turn this person around and make them see it our way in a couple of phone conversations. So your advice was good, Jasper, of like, just figure out a way to get it done. And I've been sort of ready to walk away from this deal, but it's like, it is, the purchase prices make it a $15,000 deal, which is pretty good. But by the time we pay movers to deal with all this crap, it might cost us anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 to get it done. But that's
Yeah.
still like, do I want to walk away from $10,000 to $12,000? No. But do I want the headache of dealing with all this? So anyway, I'm just trying to I went back in, and Derek's been working on this too, just trying to get somebody who says, yes, we'll go in there and throw stuff in trash bags and boxes, throw it all on a truck and drop it off this person's storage. And I think we have a couple of people to do it. And at this point, the cost doesn't really matter that much. It's just getting it done so we can close it. We have a buyer already set up. We still, should make at least 10,000, maybe more on it. So, um, we don't want to throw away $10,000. It's just been very frustrating to
Yeah.
deal with. Um, and just trying to talk, we've been trying to talk sense into the person, the seller, and they don't want to hear it. They just want every last thing in there. We're like, give us a list of the things you actually want that are important to you. And then the list is like every this, every that, every loose piece of clothing, every piece of jewelry, everything, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
basically everything in the house, including scraps of paper on the floor you want,
Yeah.
so it's not right-mindedness. It's not something we can fix as investors. So that's a challenge, but I think we're turning the corner on that one. And I think we'll have, a mover in place who can help us with this. And then the other side of it too is that the buyer has been kind of difficult of, us saying, hey, we need a day after closing to be able to move all this stuff out. And please sign an addendum just saying you'll give us a day. And they're like, we're not giving you a day. We need it closed, and that's backstory with this buyer that we may not work with again. But they think we owe them something, and we don't. Uh, and I don't want to deal with buyers who are like that, who are like trying to carry stuff from a previous deal over into the next deal. It's like the deal is over and done. Um, they think we owe them, and we're like, no, that cost us more money than it cost you. You owe us. It's just like
Yeah.
that. But we don't do that. We don't do business that way. We don't like, oh, because this deal was like this, then we got to, make up for it on this deal. It's like the deal's done. Or if you're cool about it, yeah, like, hey man, we realized you bent last time for us. Sure, we'll do something for you. But these guys have not been cool about it. So
Yeah.
anyway, so there's been friction on both ends. And I've talked about this before, but excuse me, I'm just really working on uh, minimizing friction on deals, and really recognizing sellers and buyers that are difficult or challenging to work with, and choosing not to work with them because we don't need that friction in our business and in our day to day. Just, you can, as we've talked about a million times, you can do another deal or two in the time that you're dealing with all the friction and BS with difficult people.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's one challenge. And then I mentioned the quality of contracts and our cancellation rate, which I'm working on. I can report more on that, just like canceled deal rate and reasons for canceled deals and how to improve that. I'll check in about that as I get my mind around it more, in future podcasts. And then we I don't even know if I want to check in about this one. It's just like that this one that I've had subject to, and we closed it in May, I believe, and we've been paying a mortgage on an empty house, and we've had a real challenge getting eyes on that property and getting offers there other than lowball offers from investors. And we really need, an owner occupant who wants to owner finance it. It's a good house. So that's the frustration. It's like, you probably have this experience, Jasper, where it seems like it's a good property. It seems like somebody would really want it. There's nothing really wrong with it, but it just hasn't been moving. Um, and
Yeah.
that's a weird one. It goes back to the buyer list, and then I've been trying to get one of my dispo specialists to like look at real estate agents. Can you find some rock star real estate agents in the area who might be able to bring us somebody, who wants to owner finance it, and we'll pay them a commission. We've just had a real challenge doing this. Facebook groups, reaching out to agents, doing investor base, blah blah blah, everything we could think of, and we still have not yet moved it. We had a full price offer from an investor actually a week or two ago, but the full price offer ends up netting us like 10,000 on a house. It's partly sunk costs. Like, we thought we were going to make a whole bunch of money on this house, similar to deals you've had, Jasper. It was like we bought this house, and the comps and the Zillow estimate were like 200,000 as value, and we got it for like 150. So we're like, oh, we're going to crush it on this. And then, right after that, the market started to turn, and Zillow's estimates went down, and so then the comps maybe don't, I don't know, but now it's sitting at like 170 on Zillow, and so it's just changed the whole equation. So it's like we had the full price offer from the investor, and it's like, well, do we just take that and just take our 10K and be done with this? But we have a really favorable interest rate and a nice underlying mortgage on the subject too, where we can make 350 a month based on the rental rate there in cash flow, and if we sell it for 170 and then we finance it out over 30 years, we can make a whole lot more money than 10K. We can make 40, 50, 60, 100K, depending on how long somebody keeps it. So
Yeah.
we chose to not take the investor full price offer, and keep looking, but it's a little bit of a nail biter. So that's been a challenge over the last few weeks, couple of months. And then I think that's all I've got for now, but I'm open to any feedback on the challenges or anything else. And that's all I've got.
Well, awesome. Ooh. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I would probably take that offer, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, though. Make more overtime for sure. But
Yeah, just trying to be patient and look at the big picture, right? Because if you can make 40 or 50 or 60 or more over time, plus 350 cash flow a month, then but you're right. I mean, I actually did tell Derek, like, hey, if we don't get anything this weekend, go back to that investor and see if they still want it at 170. And
yeah,
maybe we just, because the other thing that it does is the whole sunk cost thing is a mentality thing of like, oh, I already put stuff into this, so I got to stick with it. But also, we'd make 10,000 profit, but we'd put like, I think 45,000 back into our business just based on what we've put out, because we had to pay off a second mortgage and we had to pay the seller out something. We've done some repairs, and so we'd make 10,000 in profit or so, 10 or 12, but we'd also put like 30 or 40,000 back into the business cash flow wise, which is nice, right?
yeah,
So that's another way to look at it, as like profit plus cash flow might be a really nice thing, and we can do other deals and just let go of this one.
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I appreciate that feedback, because it's definitely, I know you've had these experiences where you've jumped into a deal and bought it, and you've been like, yeah, I'm gonna crush it on this, and then you're like, oh man, I'm just happy to get out of this deal,
Yeah,
get some money out of it.
yeah, exactly.
It's a little nerve wracking, you're putting money out. In this case, in any case, when you buy a house, unless you buy it all cash, like this case, we bought it subject to, so we're also paying a monthly mortgage payment. And so now it's the first of the month again, and I've got to make another mortgage payment on this. And it's just like, oh man,
Hmm.
I'm making a mortgage payment on an empty house for like the 6th month in a row.
Yeah, that's tough.
6th month in a row. Yeah. Did you have anything else before we switch over?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's do the business check-in on your side then.
All right. I like your monthly check-in. I'm gonna steal that for sure. Do my monthly
Thanks.
check-in too.
Well, it's good
Um,
for, I mean, if people are listening and wanting to see how we're doing, it's good for, to know what a month looks like, as well as a week.
yeah, definitely. So I guess I'll start with the week and then I'll do the month after. But this week was good for us. It was a great way to end the month, and I'm really proud of our team for the way we ended the month, because we got 5 contracts this first week of November. which is good for us. And I think I shared on the podcast, but that was in part because I put an incentive in place for that first week and gave everyone a bonus for reaching that 5 contracts. That was a goal that we set. And then the following 2 weeks, we only got 1 contract each week. And then this last week, our monthly goal this month was 10 contracts, and we got 5, so we ended up at 12. So
Nice.
really proud of my team for crushing it, especially on a short week. We only worked 4 days, and they still got 5 contracts. So very happy about that, and had a good week besides that as well. So we got those 5 contracts. We sold 1 deal, or sold 2 deals, and then we closed 2. And yeah, and then one of the exciting things about the contract this week, one of the contracts we got is that the seller just randomly called back, and we signed that day. And it was super cool because this dude we worked with in 2022 was actually the first deal I ever closed with my acquisition manager. So it was his first deal that he ever closed in 2022. And then we bought another piece of property from the same seller in 2023. And then here we are 2024, and he called back and he's like, "Hey, I got another property to sell." And I was like, "That is so cool." So now 3 years in a row, we'll probably close it in 2025, but either way, 3 years in a row, this same seller has decided to work with us. And so I think that's really cool. Because just like any other seller, he's probably getting hundreds and hundreds of calls every month, and he decided to remember us year after year. So I think that's pretty cool. So kudos to my acquisition for keeping a good relationship with this guy, and glad he reached out back out to us. So that was exciting. And then yeah, besides that, that's pretty much the numbers for this week. We also had a good week with leads and everything, despite being a 4-day week. We still put out 115 offers, 84 leads, and that was also our launch control. Like, it always expires like 3-ish days before the end of the month, which is kind of weird. But
Yeah.
so we reached
Mine's like the 25th or so, usually.
Yeah. So we reached our 100% limit, I think Monday or Sunday, like this past Monday or Sunday. And so we still managed to get 84 leads, which is good. Despite having only one working launch control account for this week. So now we're reset. Now it's the 1st, and we are reset, ready to roll next week. So that's awesome. But yeah, I'll do a check-in on our monthly numbers as well, and then I'll go into challenges. So monthly numbers, we had a good month as well for Dispo. I think you said you sold 8 also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we both sold 8 this month, so that's awesome.
Nice.
And that's a great month for us. My last best month was in August. We sold 10, but then September, October were a bit slower. So it's great to pick that pace back up and sell 8 this month. That's huge. I think our record actually is that August, which is 10. We've done 10 a few times, but I don't think we ever sold more than 10. So 8 is a strong showing for us. We got 35 buyer offers this month, which is good. Again, that's the highest since August. So that's good to see that we're getting a good number of offers. And so if you average that out, 8, that's exactly 5 per property, I guess, if you average that out, right? 8 times 5, I think. Or would that be 40?
5 offers and you're getting 1.
No, that'd be 40. So it's like about 4 offers per property. So that's pretty good.
25%.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. And then in terms of other monthly numbers, we did 122 new buyers this month, which is good for us. We did 120 last month, 136 in September. So over 100 is the goal. So 122 is good. And then we're able to close 4 deals this month. And like I said, 12 contracts. So I think that's pretty much all the monthly numbers. So pretty good overall. We did have quite a few. I think part of the reason why I sold 8 deals is because we had quite a few buyers backing out on us this month. And that's kind of a learning experience for me, because sometimes, we can drive to get these deals sold. And I noticed that. And so it's a good learning experience for me going forward, is that we sold a bunch of deals, and it's probably partly my fault for that August number I just shared. Like, we sold 10 deals in August, but if I go back and look at those, I'm sure half of them fell out. And so we had to resell a bunch of those deals this month, which I noticed. And so the learning lesson for me, and for anyone listening, is, say, for example, you have a tenant occupied property or an owner occupied property where you're waiting, let's say 1, 2, 3 months for these people to actually vacate before you can market it. In the past, what I was doing is I was getting pictures as soon as possible, which I still recommend you do so that you can renegotiate if you need to. And then as soon as we got those pictures, I was marketing it and I was just letting buyers know, hey, this is a situation, it's not going to be vacant until this time frame. And we were getting a bunch of buyers. They're like, oh, that's fine. Like, I'll just wait. And I was like, oh, cool. And so we're locking it up, and then they're backing out on us. And I understand, the market has declined quite a bit since August. But just on my end, next time I would not do that, and I'll just wait till it's vacant to actually market the property. And it can be like, it's kind of a weird mental thing when you have these deals that you're like sitting on, and like you feel
Yeah.
like you want to realize that profit, but you're not realizing it anyways for 3 months until you close. So you might as well just wait. And so that was a learning experience for me because like I said, it just created more work for us in the end, because then we're kind of scrambling because now they're vacant and now the buyer's backing out on us. So now we're hoping to close right then because they're vacant, but now we're having to sell them again, which is easier, once they're vacant. So we were able to get them resold, but it's still creating more work unnecessarily. And also, I think some buyers, excuse me, some buyers, when they see your deal go back out a couple months later, they might think like something's wrong with it or something. And so then I think you do shrink your buyer pool for sure when you have to send your deal back out. And some people might forget, and you might have new buyers and stuff. But yeah, anyway, so I was just sharing that in case anyone's listening that is doing the same thing. Going forward, I'm just going to wait until these properties are vacant to market them, and it will maybe delay slightly, and the seller might be a little bit more frustrated because they might want to close as soon as it's vacant. But in this case, I think it's just better for everyone, because then you have a solid buyer, you close it quickly, and it's easier to market too. You get a lockbox on there and updated pictures and everything, and you're good to go. So yeah, so that was kind of a challenge though that I checked in about, because only one of those, which is a victory, only one of those we weren't able to resell. And so now we're kind of scrambling to try to resell this one because the buyer backed out on us the day before closing. But all of the other ones were not like that, and we were able to resell, and we had more time than buyer backing out the day before closing. So that's good. But yeah, and then otherwise, I guess other challenges is just feeling the shift in the market. I have 2 properties that we have listed on MLS right now that are just crickets. It's really tough. And similar to your experience, it's just, I thought these are both great deals and they're just not, I guess. And so we're getting a lot of, what's frustrating to me is we're getting a lot of inquiries and no offers. And so we're following up with all these people, and I'm like, dude, just throw me an offer. Like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. And no one's throwing offers. And I'm just like, man. And so like we always talk about this on the podcast, but when you're selling a property, you just want feedback. And if you get no feedback, then you have no idea what's going on. And so it's difficult and frustrating when you have just no feedback at all, because then you don't even know like where to go from here necessarily. You're just like, okay, I guess these deals just suck. And so
Is it the house? Is it the price? Yeah. Is it the neighborhood? What? Yeah.
So I'll probably just end up reducing these this week, and reducing them pretty aggressively and see what happens, and hopefully that'll help. So yeah, and then I do have another one that I had on MLS and withdrew it and sold it to New Western, and hopefully we're closing that in December. So same thing that you talked about. It's like, it's not a home run profit deal, but it will get a lot of cash back into the business, because I paid for that property in cash. There was a lot of cash that went out there, and so hopefully that'll close smoothly. really kind of waiting on those funds to come back in. Like you said, just because it's a big cash infusion of the cash flow, not so much the profit, but still get a bunch of money back to do more things with. So yeah, I think that's mostly it. Mainly the other thing is that the title issues have been a challenge for me. I've still got 5 properties with title issues that are, if I've done this before, but if we add that up, it's well over 100,000 in potential profit that I could realize, but I can't right now. So that's a challenge. And I've been diving into, I don't know if I share this with you, but I've been diving into this dude, Willie. I don't know his actual name, but he goes by Willie Numbers. And I think I shared this with you, but he was on a podcast with Steve Trang talking about reverse flip method. Did I share that already with you?
I don't know about that. Reverse flip. I don't remember that.
Maybe I didn't, because we did have a couple weeks where we didn't do a pod. So maybe I listened to it during that time frame. I'll share it briefly here because it's very interesting. And I'm gonna try to start pitching this to these 5 sellers that I mentioned that are stuck in title issues, in no man's land. And so right now we have, of these 5 people, we have 3 of them set up with an estate attorney, and he's working through the process. One of them's in bankruptcy, and so we're kind of waiting that out. And then one of them is just kind of in no man's land right now. Well, not I wouldn't say no man's land, but I hired that company that I mentioned before. They're based out of Florida, and they're supposed to be helping us find this lender that we were stuck on. And so that's where that one is. So that's a breakdown. But this dude talks about reverse flipping. And so what he does, he just coined that thing like we talked about pace, but good
Yeah.
name. It's a good name. But his strategy is buying deeds. And so it's a genius thing. And it totally blew my mind. But basically, he partnered with, or not even partnered, they bought this company. First, he partnered with them, then he bought the company. But it's a loss mitigation company. And so these are loss mitigation attorneys. And it's a huge business to be in, which I didn't really know about. But basically, they're buying the deeds of these properties. And it's kind of like doing a subject to deal, but instead you're actually buying the deed. So you become the owner of the property. And they're buying these deeds only with these properties that we were into, which have hairy title or rough title issues and stuff that you can't find a lender, or maybe someone's in bankruptcy. Or one of the cool things that he shared was a zombie, they call it a zombie deal, but it's one of the ones that I'm dealing with right now. And what he shared, which makes total sense, is that let's say you have these lenders that you can't find. If you have a property with a lender, they're always going to escrow the taxes for the year because they don't want the property to go into tax foreclosure. And so with your mortgage payment, they're going to also take out and apply that money to the taxes as well. And so he said, if you have a property that supposedly has a mortgage, but you can't find the lender, but they have unpaid taxes, then that means the loan's been canceled at some point, because the taxes wouldn't be unpaid if the lender was still involved, because they'd be automatically paying the taxes. And I was like, oh my gosh, the light bulb went off in my brain. So that's the one that I have this company in Florida working on, and that's one I'm going to try to pitch real soon, because that it makes total sense. That's the exact scenario. She supposedly has a loan, and so our closing attorney won't close it because there's a deed of trust, but the taxes are also unpaid for the last like 5 years. And so at some point, the lender stopped being involved, but they didn't file the release, which is obviously the issue we're dealing with. So what this dude does is he buys the deeds and he tries to buy them essentially for $0 from the seller. And essentially, he tries to structure it where he'll pay them on the back end if he's able to actually resolve these issues. But he's basically buying the deed, and his pitch is like, look, we have all these issues. We're going to buy the deed. We're going to then work with our loss mitigation team, loss mitigation attorneys to, track down this lender, whatever, negotiate with them down, and then, we'll pay you on the back end when we sell it. And so obviously they're getting massive deals out of this, because think about it. If you can get a property for $0, and maybe there's a loan, like in my case, this loan is for 65,000, and you can find out that loan is no longer existing, then you just made 65,000 right there. And
Yeah.
so it's insane.
Or you can just
Uh,
negotiate the loan down if you do talk to a lender, like, hey, would you
yeah.
take 20 for this? And they will a lot of the time.
Yeah. And so it's pretty insane. He shared like their average deal size is above 50,000 per deal, because like I said, they're finding these loans that are huge and either negotiating them to zero or negotiating them to 50% or 30% on the dollar. And then they just have all this equity they just captured, and they already own the property. So then they're just basically kind of doing like a JV situation with the seller once they actually sell it, and they'll pay them out money on the back end. But I just thought that was super cool. And
How does he get the sellers to go for it, though?
well, in a lot of cases, these sellers are, in distress, like just like, their same sellers are working with, they're in distress, and they've also in more distress because they've been tied up by wholesalers multiple times and no results, because, we can't close these deals because these title issues. And so what he does is, sometimes he'll give them a few thousand up front if they need money to like help with moving or something, if they're owner occupied. But typically he tries to get them for as little as possible up front, because he's going to have to spend money and time, obviously, trying to negotiate the liens down and stuff. But basically he just structured it so they get paid on the back end. And also it's like, it's not going on their record, same as when you negotiate a sub two with a seller, because you're saving them
Yeah.
from
It's out of
foreclosure.
their name.
It's the
Yeah.
same type of deal here. So like, let's say they have, like in my case, 5 years of back taxes that she doesn't have the money to pay, but it's still just accruing over and over and over and getting penalties and stuff. And so, at some point, I think probably pretty soon, they're going to take the property to tax auction and she gets nothing. And so in this case, at least they get something, and they don't have to pay the loan or the taxes or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just trying to learn more about it, but he does have a school group where he teaches about it. So I'm probably going to sign up for that, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool idea.
That's
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and basically all you do is like same as a standard transaction, but similar to I think you would definitely be better at it than me because you already know all the sub two things. It's pretty much the same thing. You're just getting the deed instead of a contract. So you're getting the deed and then you're getting a power of attorney so you can negotiate with the lenders and stuff. And then you're getting assignment of rights or something because you know that thing with the um when it goes to foreclosure and there's proceeds and stuff, there's a surplus funds that the seller never gets. So you're getting assignment of rights signed with the seller for that as well, so that you're entitled to those surplus funds. And so I think those are the three docs. You're just basically doing a quick claim deed, and then you're doing a POA, and then you're doing the assignment of rights for the surplus.
Yeah, it's very similar to a sub two.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you would crush it at this for sure. But I'm gonna try to do a couple of deals with this strategy and see if it works because it's pretty cool. Pretty cool idea for sure. And then you don't have to worry about the one thing, the one thing that we worry about when we go and start paying for these estate fees on the seller's behalf, they could just sell it to someone else. And so in this
Yeah.
case, you own the property. And so that is completely removed out of the picture. Because, even I was talking to my estate attorney actually this week, because I have one we've been working on for months, and he's like, we're probably gonna have to go to the court sale option for this. And in that case, someone could upset bid you and you don't even get the property. And so now you've spent all this money and you don't get the property if someone upset bids you. And I was like, well, that sucks. But this just removes that whole thing out of the equation because you own the property. So no one can go around you. You don't have to file a memorandum, like none of that stuff. You own the
Yeah.
property. So pretty cool.
What if they foreclose though, and you're the owner?
Yeah, well, yeah, that sucks. Yeah. But also one more cool thing he shared is that you can now, because you're buying these properties, you're essentially owning these properties. I don't know why I say essentially because it kind of seems weird, but you're owning these properties and you can write that off now against your income. So now that you have all this debt that you're acquiring, you can write off that debt against your income. So it's a double whammy or a triple whammy. Like there's all these different benefits to doing this. So pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I'll have to dive more into it and share it with you because you'll probably crush it more than me, and then we can report back when we close some deals.
Yeah, that's cool. Very
Yeah,
cool. And then like we could go back through our CRMs and find all the deals that were canceled due to title issues and reach out to those sellers and get these deals, right?
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
almost like hiring another person on the team to just do that.
yeah. And it's a genius idea for him because obviously, like, it's his method, it's his company, all this stuff. So what he says is like, sign up for my group, which is the source of income for him, and then send me your deals, and I'll help you close them. And then he gets JV deals from hundreds of people, every month. So it's genius for him. But
Yeah.
it's cool for other people too, because then eventually, obviously, you can learn and you don't have to JV with him. But either way, it's cool. So yeah, that was a bit long-winded, but I can send you the link. Maybe you can put it in the description if anyone
That's a good
wants
one. I
to.
think, I mean, I have that book that you got me a couple years ago about deeds and buying notes and stuff like that. It's another whole area.
Yeah,
And same thing with selling notes. Like I mean, it's different than the deeds thing, but we don't need to go into selling notes right now. Maybe another
yeah,
time.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's cool. It just opened my eyes. There's so many different ways to make money in real estate. Just the hardest thing is sticking to one thing because you can't be
Yep.
successful in them all at the same time. So
Shiny object syndrome.
yeah, for anyone listening, do not, if you've never closed a deal, maybe don't jump into this new strategy. Focus on one thing for a year or two. But at the same
Yeah.
time, if you have been closing deals and that sounds interesting to you, you could become another expert in this new method. Maybe it's not new, but new to me. And then you could just
Yeah.
reach out to all these wholesalers and ask for their dead title leads, and then you could probably help them close these deals. So that could be an
Yeah.
option too. Yeah. But
But it is true. Pick one or two things and stick with them. Don't try and do too many.
yeah, definitely. They all work, just not at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's about it for me. I guess one more victory I could share is that I got two contracts this month from PPL, pay per lead, and so that's kind of interesting. So I might look into that some more and turn that back on. Maybe people are just turning it off for the fourth quarter, and maybe I'm getting more leads, but I don't know. It's interesting. So yeah,
It's always nice to have new unexpected leads.
yeah. And we got one this week that was one of our contracts that came in and they signed this week. So sometimes these leads do come in, they're ready to go, they're hot. So it's exciting when that happens.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that's it. So we can wrap up now. Do you have any quotes or anything else you want to share?
I screenshot one this morning. I was on Instagram and I follow Abraham Hicks. And this one was interesting to me. It's kind of like this idea of hustle culture and working hard and balancing that, right? With staying in flow and doing more leverage work than just trying to work hard all the time. This
Hmm.
one speaks to that for me a little bit. It says, whenever you're trying too hard, what is happening is that there's a part of you that's not believing it can be.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's this whole principle that when you try too hard, I think it's like a Buddhist thing too. Striving is the cause of all pain in Buddhism, something like that. So and then you get into this real estate investing and business culture of hustle and work 80 hours and all this stuff and make it happen, but there is a balance, right, where the more relaxed you are and the more you have faith that you can get results, the more you leverage your time and energy more effectively than if you're
Uh-huh.
just working, right? And so then that's where this one comes into play for me, is like, whenever you're trying too hard, what's happening is that you're not really believing it can come true. So you're trying too hard, right? So it's finding that balance of like taking the time to visualize and plot your path and believe that you can really do it is important too. Not just like working. So anyway, I like that one,
Yeah, I like that too. Thank you.
and that's what I've got.
Awesome. Well, I guess that's about it. I did have this one thing that I did this week with ChatGPT, but I'll have to find it and then I'll send it to you so we can include it. But basically, if you ask ChatGPT this series of questions or a series of prompts, then it will ask you a series of questions. And then if you take the time to actually answer that, it does take some time. I did this and it took me about 30 minutes to an hour. But you answer all these questions about yourself and your business, and it will really tailor like advice to help you grow your business and stuff and like help yourself too. So it's pretty cool. And it kind of turns it into more of like a customized assistant for you, which is cool. So you can ask it to like analyze your social media posts and analyze your personality and your business and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. And like it already knew that I was home buying, like I had a home buying business, which is cool. It's kind of weird, but kind of
Yeah,
cool. So so yeah. But I'll share that with you. It's like a series of prompts and stuff. And then maybe we could leave that in the description. But I thought that was interesting.
yeah, that's cool.
Sure. So yeah, I'm trying to learn more about AI and stuff and start using it more. So yeah, I'll report back on that. But I think that's
Yeah.
it for this week. So thank you everyone who listened this week. If you made it this far, feel free to drop a comment for next episode, and we'll see you on the next one.